Good afternoon. We are in quarterfinals of the Cascais Women's Pro, and the next exciting encounter on deck. Nikki van Dijk takes on Courtney Conlogue in another big clash here of the Titans. Gig Soleers alongside Peter Mel. Peter, watching conditions here very, very closely. We are in that high tide mark now. So with the tide just reaching the top of the graph, I'd say we have another hour of pretty consistent conditions here. So we'll keep watching as we go here to the opening ride. Now, Nikki van Dijk has been storming her way through this day 2 of competition. Working nicely here on the rail again. Little pocket mounting on the inside. She's found this right-hander. And what about the steep section coming? She'll climb it. She'll clip it. It's efficient surfing. No major maneuvers, but a great delivery. And we've been speaking about surfers building platforms early on in their heats.
Yeah, it's going to be a big ask for Courtney Conlogue because Nikki has been on point. We've seen it the last few events, and I can't speak enough about how solid she looks on her feet in these wild and woolly, windy. Everything about it is very difficult to surf, but look at that, just beautiful snap. Keeps that momentum down the line, and then the late climb up the lip there to finish that off. I think that's going to be a great score for Nikki. And again, early start, applying that pressure makes it that much tougher for anybody to come back.
Both surfers weren't trying to force things. They were allowing the wave to dictate to them. So I just noticed a slower pace and picking up maneuvers and unloading them when they were called for. Here we go. Courtney Conlogue will now crack a big opening statement. Now wraps it around, gets the momentum just a little off center. She'll want to regroup now. Remember, this is her opening ride. She wants to set a platform over her own. And now she's finding that inside right-hander. It doesn't link in the same way Van Dijk's does, but I think average for average scores right there between that first exchange.
No, I think Nikki's going way higher.
Wow.
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
She's gonna go high. Courtney there with just those little stumbles. It's going to be, I think there's a good 1.5 difference, maybe even 2-point difference between those two waves.
All right. Well, Peter Mel, you're right on your numbers because an 8-point ride has checked in for Nikki van Dijk.
8?
Judges will now peg a score for this ride.
Yeah, and nice first turn there, which is good and nice and smooth. I just don't think this can go quite into the excellent range just because of some of that stumbling right there. And well, you know what? Let's watch a little bit more. That was nice arc. But again, that steep section eluded her at the end. That late hit that Nikki had was committed. It was hard to do, and that's why you'll see that score of an 8-point ride, just pressure applied super early.
Well, we're watching the replay here of now an 8-point ride. This is the opener of Van Dijk, and you're talking about the strong finish on the inside here, Peter.
Yeah, well, I like that turn too. It kept a lot of speed, and then that late climb, that section was already halfway down, and she was able to get up and over it. That is not an easy turn to complete, and of course that's why the reward of excellent surfing. Actually, I saw a difference there. I mean, I said 2 points, but according to the judges, there's a 3-point gap between those first exchange. But I know you have to have a world champion that can surf waves like this across the board, and Huntington Beach, where you're sometimes you're dealing with really small and gutless conditions. Here, wild and woolly conditions. You have to be able to navigate it, read the ocean, and a true world champion should be deemed the best surfer in all types of conditions.
Well,
ultimately.
Yep. All types of conditions underway here, and Courtney Conlogue now doing a good job. She picked up on a big wave on the outside there, Peter, worked it through to the inside. It's not going to unlock anything special, but in the meantime, she does play out her second scoring ride.
Playing the busy role, getting to the outside, turning around, riding waves. Ultimately, you never know what you're going to see, especially in conditions like this. Staying busy can be a good way to get scores up on the board. You start to be a bit choosy here. She takes off on the outside. She sees an opportunity for some open face, gets to it, wraps that cutty. Good technique there with that back arm, swinging across the chest, all the way across, keeping the momentum here. And then a backside hooking snap. But unfortunately, this wave shuts down in front of her. She wasn't able to get any clean face for that final finish move. But pretty good surfing there, and she'll pick up similar score to probably her 4.83. And, maybe take a little bit of a lead. Only needs a 3.18. But Nikki van Dijk now, with that 8-point ride, is going to try and choose a gem to really put a lock on this heat.
Well, Strata, the Hawaiians are flying the flag here because this, no matter what, she's going to easily find her best result matching her opener. of that semi-finals at the Roxy Pro on the Gold Coast. Now Van Dijk has used priority and now picking up and playing out her wave number 2. Remember, she opened with the 8-point ride. Now through to the inside, stays tight with the pocket, now keeps the board flowing. Another strong punctuation on the inside for Van Dijk, and she'll just keep the board moving again. There's more opportunities. Slightly lighter than Courtney Conlogue on the scale is Van Dijk, and she's doing a great job of just flowing through and posting wave number 2 here.
You know, I've been able to watch Nikki throughout this season, and there was a real shift. Cabo San Lucas was one event that was a QS 6000, and in that event there was a different Nikki Van Dijk for me. You know, she was able to do exactly what she did right here, where she would go out in her heat and she would just post a gigantic score right out of the gates, and it just made things so much easier for her. And I think that she is obviously kind of trying to apply that same type of strategy. I mean, most surfers would probably love to start out with an 8 or an exit ride, but just something's happened there, and I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe she's just like dialed in her equipment, or ultimately that event, somehow that confidence was brimming, and she's just been able to hold on to it. But you know, you remember the season, as we watch this replay here, the season where she had you know, the fall in Fiji where she hit her face on the reef and had to pull out. There was the fall at you know, the Rip Curl Bells Beach where she fell onto the rocks, like right into the rocks. Like, was having kind of a shocker, you know, championship tour. But now, different woman. You know, again, I think that she's starting to understand that she believes to be in that top 10, and even could be, you know, if she still surfs similar to what she's doing right now, she could be in that top 5 and really start vying for world title contention.
Well, world title contention is the strong subject, as now Conlogue flows through to the inside here. Beautiful wraparound cutback. Now she won't want to overforce it, but she'll play to the tune of the wave, squares up the tail, gets the drift. Big whitewater rebound as well.
Wow,
and wow, a lot of acceleration as the board just flowed. Sick. Those concaves driving her up and over that section. The beach is applauding. So that one is going to be a welcoming number for Courtney Conlogue, and she will ditch one of her counting 2 rides at this stage. Meanwhile, Peter, you were talking about Nikki Van Dijk's momentum. She's plugged another bomb, a 717. There's her 2-wave total out front. It's making for a combination for Courtney Conlogue, but a score now to come to probably unlock the combo.
And that wave is shut down like that, and it's you know, you do the whitewater climb, it just doesn't have you know, the judges don't buy in. You know, as a surfer, you know, and they are too. I'm not trying to take away from it, but just ultimately, you know, you need to have the wave face be open. But you know, she did some solid work here while the wave was open. You know, this turn gets up and over. It's not easy. Like I said, there she gets her fin release, but this climb was sick, you know, and it's not easy because what happens is you go up and over those foamy. I mean, again, it's not going to be that maneuver is not necessarily known as a huge scoring maneuver, but it's difficult, and you know, there's some flow to it. So you look at the elements in which you know, the criteria is judged upon, and you know, ultimately does it, you know, that we get to see it for you folks at home before the score comes in. So let's take a look at it. Smaller wave, obviously, but you know, with that smaller wave, clean open face. You know, there was a beginning of this one, you know, nothing super special, but this wave stands up here on the inside. This is where that first turn, look at this, just zap, and then comes in and climbs the whitewater there. So another difficult move, that late climb.
So that's setting the pace and the scale for the heat. That was the opening ride of Nikki Van Dijk's. Now let's have a look at the replay. Judges will be locking a number 2. And Pete, this one's going to register at an 8.23. So great comparison there from our judging panel.
Yeah, exactly that. If you were to look at the score line, you know, you see judge number 5 gave it a 7.8 and gave Nikki an 8. So some of the judges are a little bit different on where it comes in, you know, and that's what's nice about having 5 judges on the panel, is that you'll give their own opinion. And ultimately, Judge 5 liked Nikki's better.
Yep. But big opportunity for Courtney Conlogue to jump a couple of steps in a final finish here in this event and claw back some points. Meanwhile, Nikki Van Dijk leading this heat. Pete, replay here. This one's not going to play into a top 2.
Well, you know, big section in front of her, but you know, not able to get to any clean open face. As soon as she does finally get to the open face, you can see all the ribs and bumps, and that was a challenging wave to ride. No real scoring opportunity there. And there we go, some live action though.
Well, slightly heavier by about 6 kilograms is Courtney Conlogue on the scale. Will that help her drive through these bumpy wave faces? She is doing a great job of setting the rail and keeping the board driving. Now, pocket ahead for her crumbly lip, but she'll just dodge that and keep the board speed up for an impact turn on the end, and she'll lay back into it, and that will be a nice conclusion. Now, she took off on that wave looking for the 6.94. So back to the hands of the panel now. Those 5 gentlemen will be just deciphering that, working against those scores of 8s and 8.23s as references. Peter, let's have a look at this wave of Courtney's.
Yeah, let's check this out. You know, you got to remember that doing those moves on the outside like that, score very high by the judges. You know, that's committed. And then again, attacking the lip. That was a section that had actual power, and then again climbing the lip. So 3 moves on the outside here. You know, it looked like this section here was going to be perfect for her, but she ended up going around it. But then the final move banks it, and that time drifts the fins and hangs on. So this is going to be a good score for her. To go back in the excellent range. I feel like she's going to take the lead here. It needs a 6.94. I would say that she's got that. Heard this score, and it's a good one.
Wow, a 9.67 from the panel. She went to the lip 3 times in challenging conditions. Peter, you called it from the outset during the replay. The first maneuver on the outside, then, I mean, a real crack on the inside again. So yeah, just a fantastic three combinations in the lip, and that's where the excellent category
gets we talk about elements in the judging criteria. You know, we'll watch this again, but it's a combination of major moves. You know, I mean, they don't say that the outside is critical, but ultimately that's where the biggest part of the wave generally is. You know, but she hits the lip 2 times and then goes and climbs the whitewater here again for the 3rd, all in combination of major moves. So those were major maneuvers, and then gets to the inside here. She misses that section slightly, but you know what? She had to finish like that and finish strong, and that's what she does. She finishes strong. You know, the commitment and degree of difficulty, that was super difficult wave to ride. I mean, there was a bunch of bumps there. She kept the flow and speed, power, and flow. Those are all elements. No innovation and progression there. You know, I guess you could say that there was...
and you could pick up a score in a really big footprint here. So got to be right. It is a bit of a needle in the haystack, but I'll tell you what, this was the 8-point ride to start here, Peter. The needle in the haystack found early on for Van Dijk.
Well, think about this. You know, she posted 15.17 points early in this heat here, and was putting Courtney into a combo. Courtney had a 4.83 and a 3.83, and then all of a sudden was able to come back with this wave right here, an 8.23, and then ultimately putting it into a very hard and difficult situation for Nikki Van Dijk, needing a 9.9 at this point, when she was able to find that 9.67. And look at that, 8.23. I mean, part of that score came from that nice wave right there, and that's that confidence too that she carries when she is able to complete rides like that.
And attacking the lip here, Pete, this is the one that unlocks the big number of a 9.67. Going vertical in this condition's very challenging. She's done a great job, and this is what seals the deal for her here.
Yeah, she does, and she gets with a lot of speed, and there's that drift of the fins, hangs on, lays back, uses that back arm for stability to come out of that section, and rides out clean, and there is a big finish, and looking at a 2-wave total of 17.90. 20 seconds away. Let's see if Nikki could put herself by looking to the outside here. I've got a good view of the outside, although it's pretty tough to read if there's actual sets coming, but I don't see a whole lot of opportunity out there. As you can see, the wind has kicked in. You know, it is a wild and woolly, but look at the scores that the girls have been able to post.
Well, a fantastic delivery. I mean, I can tell you now, Nikki Van Dijk's 2-wave total, an 8 and a 7.17. That would have been enough to take out most of the heats that we've seen over the last 2 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a fantastic delivery here, but we have wrapped that heat up. It is now official. Courtney Conlogue gets the victory in a high-scoring affair in challenging conditions, and she will move through to the semi-finals. Nikki Van Dijk will settle for a 5th place finish here, Pete, and well, the reality of it is she'll climb to 10th place, will Nikki Van Dijk, on the championship tour.